Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus said to his disciples, "As the Father loves me, so I love you. Remain in my love. Remain in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments, and I remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you, and your joy may be complete. This is my commandment that you must keep. Love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do this thing I command you. I no longer call you slaves, because a slave does not know what his master is doing. No, I call you friends, because I've told you everything. Everything that I've heard from my Father, I have shared with you. It was not you who chose me, but I who chose you. I appointed you to go out and bear fruit that will remain, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give you. But this I command you, love one another." The Gospel of the Lord. There are many commandments in Jesus' day, hundreds and hundreds, really. But the commandment of loving one another was the one he boiled it all down to. Love my Father, love God, above all else, with your heart and soul. And 2, love one another. I found a story that I think kind of fleshes out that idea of what it means for people of faith to believe and to be people of love. This is a true story. It was in Reader's Digest many years ago. It's a moving story about a little baby who was born in Milwaukee. The baby was blind. The baby was mentally retarded. The baby was born with cerebral palsy. He was hardly human as people looked at him. He didn't respond to sound or touch. His parents had abandoned him. The hospital didn't know what to do with the baby. Then somebody remembered May Lemke, a 52-year-old nurse who lived nearby. She had raised 5 children of her own. She would know how to care for such a baby, they thought. So they asked May to take the infant, saying, "He'll probably die young." May responded, "If I take the baby, he won't die young, and I'll be happy to take him." This is the story. May called the baby Leslie. He was a little boy. It was not easy to care for him. Every day she would massage the baby's entire body. She prayed over him. She cried over him. She placed his hands in her tears. One day someone said to her, "Why don't you put that child in an institution? You're wasting your life, May." As Leslie, the boy, grew, so did May's problems. She had to keep him tied in a chair to keep him from falling over. The years passed, 5, 10, 15. It wasn't until Leslie was 16 years old that May was able to teach him to stand alone. All this time, he didn't respond to her, but all this time, May continued to love him and to pray for him, to pray over him. She even told him stories about Jesus, even though he didn't seem to hear her, let alone understand her. Then one day, May noticed Leslie's finger plucking a taut string on a package. May wondered what this could mean. Was it possible that Leslie was sensitive to music? She began to surround the boy with music. She played every type of music imaginable, hoping that one type might appeal to him and move something within this boy. Eventually, May and her husband bought an old second-hand piano, an old upright. They put it in Leslie's bedroom. May took Leslie's fingers in hers and showed him how to push the keys down. But he didn't seem to understand. Then one winter night in 1971, May awoke to the sound of someone playing Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1. That is not an easy piece of music. For those of you who are musicians, you know that. She shook her husband. She woke him up and asked him if he'd left the radio on. He said he didn't think so, but they decided they'd better check. What they discovered was beyond their wildest dream. Leslie was sitting at the piano. He was smiling and playing Tchaikovsky by ear. It was too remarkable to be true. Leslie had never gotten out of bed alone before. He'd never seated himself at that piano before. He'd never struck a piano key on his own. Now he was playing this piece beautifully. May dropped to her knees and said, "Thank you, dear God. You didn't forget my Leslie." Soon Leslie began to live at the piano. He played classical, country western, ragtime, gospel, even rock. It was absolutely incredible. All the music May had played for him all those years was stored somewhere in his brain. And now it was flowing out through his hands into that piano. Leslie was now 28, began to talk. He didn't carry on extended conversations, but he did ask questions. He gave simple answers. He could make brief comments on things. For example, one night he was watching a comedy on TV, and he got fed up with the dialogue, and he said, "I think we better turn that off. They're all crazy." We've all had that feeling. Leslie today, I found this story years ago, so I don't know how current it is, but he plays concerts for church groups, civic organizations, cerebral palsy victims and their parents, retarded children and their parents. He's appeared on national television. Doctors describe Leslie as an autistic savant, a person who is mentally retarded from brain damage, but can be extremely talented with very high IQs at times. They can't explain this unusual phenomenon, although we have known about it for over 200 years. May Lemke can't explain it either, but she does know that talent can be released through love. The talent can be released through love. The story of May Lemke and what her untiring love did for this boy Leslie that she took needs to be told over and over and over again. It's especially appropriate for us today as we realize that it dramatizes in a moving way the tremendous power of love that we hear in the scriptures that we preach from this podium. What May's love did for Leslie is nothing short of a miracle. And that's precisely what Jesus intended love to be, miracle making. It isn't reserved just for the healthy, for the wealthy. It isn't reserved just for the wise or the famous. God's love is for everyone. Love is the one thing that makes all of us equal before God and before each other. Stand now, everybody. I believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, and in Jesus.